Greetings, everyone. I hope that you are doing well. My name is Tamoy Campbell, and for this evening, I will be your moderator. We're definitely in for an amazing treat because we're talking about the do's and don'ts of virtual communication. Just before we get into the substantive part, I hope that you're all doing well. I'm going to also ask for you to just put in the chat where you're from, but also lay some ground rules. So this is a voice-activated call on Zoom. So we're just asking for microphones, please be muted. In addition to that, there will be a question and answer segment. So you have the opportunity to pose your questions in the chat. I will read them aloud to our facilitator for this evening session, and then we'll get things going. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know. This is recorded, so you also have the ability to request the recording, and I'll put the emails in the chat so you can get that at a later date. Hi, Robin from Barbados. Now let's get into it. This is all about virtual communication do's and don'ts. Digital communication now plays a vital part in our daily lives because we're here huddled in Zoom land and many other virtual platforms. Virtual communication do's and don'ts is for everyone. Now, this presentation will provide practical strategies to ensure that our messages are delivered and received correctly and that our online interactions are professional and respectful. So let's improve our virtual interactions. This session will be facilitated by Dr. Kathian Bellamy. Now, Dr. Kathian Bellamy holds a postgraduate diplomas in special needs education and technical or vocational education. She also holds a Master's of Science in Counseling Psychology and a PhD in Educational Psychology. She has been working in the fields of education and psychology for 27 years. Now, as an education and counseling consultant, Dr. Bellamy trains teachers and creates teaching guides to assist other educators. Now, one of her many projects, which was commissioned by UNICEF, is the Early Childhood Educators Guide and teacher training on how to teach young children and child protection. She also counsels at-risk adolescents and their families in various national programs. Dr. Bellamy is an adjunct tutor of psychology with the Eridstone Teachers Training College in Barbados. She also mentors students who are writing their research at the UA and other international universities. Now, we're all grappling with the paradigm of virtual school and work. To mitigate the adverse outcomes of this here-to-stay phenomenon, Dr. Bellamy has been researching and writing for the nation's newspaper in Barbados on the topic, success strategies for online teaching, for online learning and teaching. Now, in this session, she will share a part of the series on these essential and timely guides. Her goal is to empower all families to succeed during these tumultuous times. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to give a virtual round of applause to our presenter for this evening's session, Dr. Kathian Bellamy. The virtual stage is now yours.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Tamoy. I've been observing you during these sessions and you are doing a wonderful job. Thank you. I want to say thank you for the team, Miss Dice and her team at UE Soft and Life Skills webinar. The persons responsible, you are doing a good job. I too have benefited from many of the various personal and professional development programs. Welcome to my brothers and sisters in the region. Welcome to my brothers and sisters in the world. It is indeed good to have you here tonight. Now, by show of hands, how many of you use the internet for school, training? I'm seeing, okay. Webinars, entertainment, okay. Business, good. So, all right, good. Thank you. Whether we use the internet for business, for education, entertainment, for some of us, we use it for worship also. we must be mindful that our virtual interactions are engaging, respectful, and not misunderstood. Now, as we all know, interacting remotely is not as easy as interacting face to face. Okay? When we communicate in person, there's a social obligation to engage and be present. After all, there's another person you're interfacing with, and it would be impolite not to engage. Further, when we interact in person, we receive feedback, facial expressions, body language, and these help us to get our message across even more effectively. However, when we interact virtually, these clues are absent. And so we cannot rely on these clues. And many times our interactions may result in confusion or disengagement. Please allow me to share my screen at this time. Okay. So that brings us to tonight's topic, virtual communication do's and don'ts. Now, in this session, we will explore how we can improve our virtual communication. We will first look at a definition for what is virtual communication. Why is it important? And we will explore some practical strategies, do's and don'ts, to make our remote or online communication more effective. So my question to you, my friends, my colleagues, what is virtual communication? Okay, I'll ask Tamoy to just monitor and give me the first definition that she gets. Thank you.
Dr. Bellamy, Robin Downs says that virtual communication is communicating online.
Okay, good. So we're off to a good start. Most of us understand, I think, what virtual communication is. Yes, virtual communication, also referred to as online, digital, virtual, and e-communication, is the delivery and reception of media using the internet. Now, virtual communication is how people use the technology to engage with others who are not physically present. Now, all of us, as we have already established, at some time are involved in virtual communication as we interact in our remote meetings, social media, chat rooms, etc. But why is it important? Why are we here sacrificing our evening? Why is effective communication important? You can put your answers in the chat, and Tamoy would share them with me.
I'm seeing to share information. That's from Simone Ingleton.
Mm-hmm.
Robin says it's so that messages sent can is so that message sent is message received.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Any others?
Yes, where the messages are sent and received, and that's from Brenda Brathwaite. And
Okay.
Roxanne says it's to inform.
Okay. Okay. To inform. Okay. But why should we do our best to make sure that we are having good virtual or online communication?
No, so Annette says no visual cues.
Yes, yes, good, good. One more.
To ensure that the information is clearly understood, and that's from Melissa. To ensure a clear picture for the message received to be received in the way it was intended, should be easy to understand.
Yes, thank you all very much. So you've made my job a lot easier. So whether we use the internet for professional or personal purposes, we all have to be careful that our information or info is not misunderstood. And that's why this is so important. Okay, whether we use it for business, in our personal interactions, we are all now, regardless to if we want to or not, digital citizens in an online community. And as such, we are responsible for making our community safe and conducive to work. Now, as digital citizens, we are expected to comply with a set of standards or conduct of good behavior, okay? And this code of conduct is called Netiquette. Netiquette is short for network netiquette. It is a framework of essential rules and norms for interacting online in a considerate and respectful way. Now, netiquette is everyone's responsibility. Precepts of netiquette. Netiquette can be summarized using 3 precepts. There's a human being on the other end of your communication. Treat that human being with respect, and do not transmit any message that you would not be willing to communicate face to face. Practicing good netiquette will reduce the chances of misunderstanding and help to make our interactions more engaging and impressive. First, online impressions do count. In addition, having good online behavior or manners also protects our reputation. Now, as we know, the internet holds a permanent record. So an employer may forget or a friend may forget, but the internet does not. The internet holds a permanent record. It is an inerasable whiteboard with indelible ink, which can taint your reputation and haunt you for a lifetime. Now remember, everything posted on the net can be traced, okay? This is known as our digital footprint. Using good netiquette helps you and I make sure our online footprint reflects well on us. Now, in my counseling with at-risk youth, I always caution them about sharing personal and provocative pictures online. Usually when I inform them that these pictures are permanent and cannot be removed, the response is usually one of great trepidation. Now let's explore some virtual communication don'ts. Don't flame. Avoid flaming. Flaming is any hostile and insulting interaction between internet users. Name calling, cursing, etc. Flaming wars are online battle where people trade insults. Now, an expression of hostility is obviously different from disagreeing with what someone says. It's okay to disagree. We all come from diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures, various worldviews. And so we will not all agree on certain matters. However, even though it's good to be different and it's good to have your opinion and disagree, it is not okay to be disagreeable. Now, we can express our disagreement respectfully by saying something like, my experience has been different, or here's my point of view. Further, I want to caution us that when we read something and we're offended, that we not respond with hostility and hit send. Please don't. Think before you push that send button and avoid sharing when you're angry or frustrated. And I'm sure if time would allow, there will be stories that we can share about where we would have responded in anger or frustration and the dire consequences of such behavior. Let's look at 2 now. Don't use inappropriate language. Keep communication clean. No abusive or offensive language, racist or sexist jokes or comments. Avoid general statements about politics, sexual orientation, and religion. Again, you don't know who's on the other end of the communication. You don't know their worldview. And so making statements about sensitive subjects may offend or alienate others. The other person may be a co-worker, even a potential client. And these comments could very well result in loss of business, loss of a client, or even a friend. Now, what do these emojis mean? I listen for the chat and see. I should say no under 30s allowed to respond, but that's all right. You go ahead. What do these emojis mean?
No responses as yet.
No responses. Okay.
Okay, Simone says she doesn't know.
Make some guesses. Make some guesses. Come on.
Okay.
Make some guesses.
Kay Reed says the left one means it's fun.
Okay. All right. So some of you would know, some of you would not. I actually expected more of you to know, but I recognize that some of you would not. And that brings us to our next point, our next don't, sarcasm. They're actually sarcasm, okay? If you said something and you meant it to be sarcastic, these are the emojis you would use. Now we want to avoid sarcasm, okay? Avoid it because it can be easily misinterpreted. Now remember, the other person cannot read your tone, your voice, or your facial expressions. And so using sarcasm may be lost. We want also to be careful with jokes, especially in professional settings. Not everything is clear online, and sometimes people might not realize that you're joking. Often we rely on emojis like the ones just mentioned and the ones here, LOL, etc., to show that we're not being serious. However, as we just found out, there's no guarantee that the person on the other end will understand. And I'll share a personal experience with you. For a while now, I've been communicating with my dad via chat. And often I'll send something funny and I'll use the same LOL. And recently, after this is 2 years or maybe more of chatting online and using LOL, he asked me, daughter, what does lol mean? I was like, lol? Right? He was actually asking me what LOL meant, okay? So don't assume that the other person will know if you're joking or not, and avoid sarcasm and jokes, especially in professional settings. Obviously in personal, with your friends, it would be different. Here is another example of how sarcasm can be misunderstood or confused. I'll give you 30 seconds or so to read and absorb. Okay, another example of how sarcasm may be lost or misinterpreted. 4, don't email large files. Post large files to your own space and send the others the link. Now, when you look at this picture, many times we come across a picture or maybe an inspirational video, and we think it's really great and we want to share it with a friend or maybe a colleague. Avoid sharing the entire file and send a space. Even though you may think a picture like this is inspirational, that is the last thing it would give the person you email it to if it crashes their server or slows the computer down. 5, avoid in your communication, your text, all caps. There's sometimes when you would have to use it, but you want to avoid using all caps, especially in a whole body of work. The color red, all caps, these convey a tone of anger to your reader. Instead, if you want to highlight a word or a statement, use bold type or highlight. Colored font and italics make the text more difficult to read, so you want to avoid those also. So those are our 5 don'ts. Of course, there are many more, but I thought I would deal with the ones that I think would be more adequate for this group. Those are our 5 don'ts. Now let's explore some practical things that we can do to improve our virtual communication. 6, convey a respectful tone. always, especially at the beginning. If you begin with a negative tone, you're going to have a difficult time connecting later. The subject lines and the first few words of an email, first few words, of a note establish the tone. In your webinars, in your training, those of you who are educators and you're teaching, you want to introduce your webinar with energy and positive energy. And we had a perfect example at the beginning of this session. And I've been observing all along, always positive, always upbeat, always energetic, Tamoy. So that's a good example. I don't even need to give you an example. Always start positive. Now you want, obviously, to respect privacy, okay? You don't want to, don't forward or share information sent to you without permission. You want to use blind carbon copy rather than carbon copy if you're sending something to more than one person. Let me just go back a little. The same goes for uploading photos and videos that include other people to cyberspace. And remember that when you tag someone on Facebook, others can access their photos as well. Unless they have adjusted their privacy settings, others can see their photos, right? I remember, I don't know how it is in your part of the world, but yeah, I think this was a general trend a few years ago where persons would show their location on their IG or Facebook so that when they left home, persons, their friends, whoever knew where they were going. But the criminals also knew when they left home and where they were going, okay? So try to respect your privacy and the privacy of others. Be clear and concise. Less is more in online communication, yeah? Express your ideas clearly and concisely and stay on topic in your responses. A good email or text should be short, easy to read, and absorb. By show of hands, how many of you want to read an email with 10 paragraphs? I figured that much, okay? We want also to use words that our audience would understand. Sometimes we want to impress others with our expansive vocabulary. However, we ought to be careful using technical terms because it may, again, alienate and confuse others. Use special or technical terms in particular specialist situations, yeah? Now here's another activity for you, okay? Now, how could this have been said clear for the average person to understand? This is a doctor speaking to a family member reporting on a patient. Okay. Any responses? What about you, Tamar?
I see placed on a ventilator and machine that breathes for him. I see Keela. Keela says he was given oxygen.
Okay, thank you. and everybody understands what you are saying, okay? So we want to use technical language to a specific group, yeah, as not to alienate others. Okay. In our PowerPoint, in our presentations, we want to break up our content and make it more reader friendly by using bullet points, subheadings, and lists. Avoid using long unbroken blocks of text, as this intimidates readers and creates a psychological block. If you really want to turn off your audience, your participants, when you're doing your training or your webinars, copy and paste whole parts of a book and put them in your PowerPoint. Now, which is more reader friendly, left or right?
Right.
Okay, right. And this is the same information, okay? Have a clear purpose and communicate it. And this is particularly to virtual meetings, which have become a part of our schedule. Most of us, this has become a part of our life. When you're planning your virtual sessions, training, whatever, you want to have a clear purpose and communicate it up front. Having objectives, an agenda or outline will provide a clear structure and will serve as a signpost of what you're going to do, okay? And how you're going to do it. People generally prefer predictability over uncertainty when entering new situations. Clear insight of the purpose will enable your audience to prepare, participate, and obviously to ask questions. And I know from my being a participant being a part of the audience of most of these sessions, that is usually done. You come understanding what the purpose is, it is clear, and so you can prepare yourself. Review, review, review. You want to review for spelling and grammar. Always proofread emails, texts, presentations for spelling and typos, okay? Sharing material online with typos or misspelled words makes you look bad. If necessary, eliminate irrelevant information to improve clarity. We seldom spot our own mistakes. And so have another person, a friend, or even a professional editor look at your work. What works for me is to leave the work and return to it maybe the next day or a few hours with a fresh pair of eyes. And you'll find that you see errors that you did not see before. So you have options. You also want to review for clutter, okay? Many of our presentation slides using virtual meetings are densely populated, and the audience is expected to follow while the presenter is simultaneously talking. Now, our brains cannot effectively focus on more than one thing at a time. And so if you clutter your slides and you're expecting your audience to stay with you, they may be lost, okay? So we're gonna try replacing cluttered slides like outlined before with short bullet points, graphics. We can use our graphs, our charts, etc., so that it is more impactful, easier on the brain, and also on the eyes. It is recommended that slides be no more than 8 lines, 6 to 8 lines, and less than 30 words. Font It's recommended 24 or bigger, okay? We also want to review for background distractions, as these can hinder communication as well. Okay, check your camera setup before the meeting and remove anything that may serve as a distraction. If you cannot declutter, use a virtual background. It's recommended that you look at the camera rather than the self view. I found personally looking at the self view can be a little stressing, because when you look at the self view, you're aware of yourself, and there's an awkward feeling to be critical, okay? So it's recommended that once you set up, you realize that your background is free from distractions, that you hide your self view, or maybe just not focus on your self view at all, okay? Ten, share with discretion. Avoid sending personal pictures or unedited home video, especially in professional virtual events. If you have a problem with your boss, your religious leader, your children seeing it, don't post it online. The same goes for telephone conversations. Now, that's the end of our do's and don'ts for effective virtual communication. There are, of course, a lot more, but because of time constraints, we will not go into them. If someone wants to share, that's all right. But I just want to encourage you in conclusion to let us work on our virtual communication. It's here to stay, okay? The COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting closures of schools and workplaces, etc., has exacerbated our dependence on digital communication. Thus, effective online communication is vital today more than ever. With these skills in practice, we will reduce the risk of misunderstanding. We will ensure our digital footprint reflects well on us. And most importantly, we will develop and maintain good business and personal relationships, okay? We can make the best out of this crisis situation and enhance our online communication. And one way we can do this is to remember good netiquette, the tenets of good netiquette. There's a human being on the other end of the communication. Always remember that. And that we need to treat that human being with respect. Do not transmit any message that you would not be willing to communicate face to face. Thank you. I will now turn back over to our moderator. Questions, answers, comments, queries.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. Well, Roxanne is asking a question. If you could explain further what you meant by looking at the camera view rather than self-view.
Okay, when you are chairing a meeting or you're leading a meeting, you have options for view depending on the platform you're using. So you have a self view where you can actually, if you look now, you will see that you can see yourself. You're not presenting, so it may not be as obvious. But if you are leading or presenting, you can actually see yourself. If you focus on that, the temptation is that you're going to be critical. Something's going to be wrong with your hair and your eyebrows. And so it is advisable to focus on your camera. That way you're speaking directly to individuals. And I'll show you now, this is me speaking to myself. You see the difference? Right. Does that answer your question?
Roxanne, you can let us know in the chat if your question is answered. Yes, Roxanne said her question was answered. I personally have a question though, Dr. Bellamy. I know that we're in this virtual reality now, and often I'm told that everyone is understanding. So if they hear the baby crying in the background, if your mom is calling you to wash the dishes, there's this sort of plug that people must understand that you're at home and you're sharing a space, so it's completely fine. But I personally find it a great peeve. I would hate to be hosting now and my mom calling me to do something. So how is it that you navigate that? I suppose striking a balance with persons, I suppose being understanding, but at the same time making an effort to try to minimize the background distraction so we can have effective and seamless meetings and virtual engagements. Any advice there?
I think you answered your question. Yes, you have to strike the balance, and remember, they're different events. So obviously in a professional webinar, you wouldn't expect to hear the baby crying, oh, I'm coming back. I'm going to tend to the baby. However, if maybe you have, like in my adult classes, I understand, I tend to be more understanding in my adult classes, because many, I don't know how it is in the islands, but in the other islands, but in Barbados, many people are working from home, and they're working and they're homeschooling. So if I hear baby, it's okay, but I would still like to know, if I hear baby, it's no fuss, but I wouldn't expect to hear baby every session, competing with the cry. Yeah. So it's a balance. We have to balance.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. I'm going to ask members of our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to use this as an opportunity to post them in the chat, and so I can read it aloud to Dr. Bellamy. We have just another question. How many presentations should be done in a 2-hour time frame?
How many presentations in a 2-hour time frame? I'm not sure if I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Roxanne, I think that's from Roxanne, if you could provide further clarity on that question so Dr. Bellamy could answer, please. You could type it in the chat so we can see it. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And remember, this is recorded, so you do have the opportunity to request and watch at a later time. All right, so I'm waiting on Roxanne to pose a few more questions, or if anyone else, but if perhaps any other tips. I know you said that there are a plethora of other tips you could give us, Dr. Bellamy, but perhaps any other novel points, I suppose, that we could really take away on how just to conduct ourselves properly in this virtual environment and to effectively and properly communicate with each other.
Yes, we need also to be mindful of screen time. So having a webinar 2 hours is not cool. I usually do training for 3 hours in person, but now we're doing it online. So I would have 3 breaks during that 3-hour session. So I would encourage others, it's not healthy for you, the presenter, nor for your participants to be staring at a screen for more than an hour. And 3 even is not good on your eyes, it's not good on your brain, it's not good on your posture, it's not good on your psyche or your mental. It is not good. Physically, mentally, it is just not healthy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. Zoom fatigue is a real thing, so I echo the sentiment 110%. Roxanne expounded a little bit. She said that she was recently a part of a webinar where 4 of us presented. It was informative, but she found it to be a little too much. So I suppose with that said, how many presentations, I suppose, should someone structure or fit into a 2-hour time frame? I hope that offers a little more clarity and context.
Is the person who's leading or the participant? That's what I don't understand from the perspective of the person who is conducting the session or the participants, because the person who is leading can have 3 sessions, but they could be 3 different groups. So that's why it's still not clear. I don't know if it's clear to anyone else.
Roxanne, would you perhaps mind coming onto the microphone and perhaps sharing with us so that we can have all the clarity we need and Dr. Bellamy can answer you as best as possible. So you can come onto the microphone, unmute, and we can have a quick chat. I also see some other questions coming in, Dr. Bellamy, and I have a couple from Kingsley. So until Roxanne comes, I'll just read those. So Kingsley has 3 questions. 1, in terms of the statement on the digital footprint, with all information on the internet remaining as a permanent record, does all the various privacy statements by several sites mean anything? And what about communication on WhatsApp, which is encrypted? So that's his question number 1.
Nothing posted on the internet is private. Nothing posted is private. Nothing.
Well, there have it, Kinsey, nothing posted. So I suppose all these privacy information, perhaps, I'm not sure if it has much weight, but
Remember,
that's it.
they told us that Facebook was private, and now they're using our information for advertising. And so are our other networks. And by the way, all these are connected: Facebook, IG, Instagram, LinkedIn. They're all controlled by the same person. Yeah. So remember that.
Thank you, Dr. Bellamy. Kinsley's question number 2, what is the recommended font size for emails? I have received large fonts, 24 and higher, and I think I'll just merge his 3rd question. Is it obligatory to have a live video on virtual meetings? Is there a protocol? I'll just reread. So the question was, what's the recommended font size for emails, as he has received emails with fonts 24 and larger? And then, is it obligatory to have a live video on virtual meetings? Is there a protocol?
Okay. The first question, 10, 12, 14, 10 to 14. 20 is definitely too large. The person probably just copied and pasted. But think of your reader, the person on the other end, and what they're receiving. In terms of the protocol, that is something I would have to check. I am not sure if there's a protocol regarding the use of videos. And I'm thinking that you're speaking about videos. These are videos that you would have created or videos that you would have downloaded. Which one? Because you can
tell us.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying Kinsey could tell us further because you didn't say it, but you can finish up your statement, please, Dr. Bellamy.
Yes, because I could have done this, created a video and could have done this whole webinar. It would be my video. However, you can use other people's work, but you must be mindful to give credit. Yeah, you should give credit if there's a video that you have downloaded and it seems more effective in getting over a point. That's okay, but you need to give credit to the creators of the material. If it's your material, well, fine.
Thank you, Dr. Bellamy. Roxanne is ready. So Roxanne, I'm gonna allow you to unmute and you can come on the microphone and raise your question first, please, just before I get to Rosemary. So Roxanne, I'm gonna unmute. You can go ahead and speak.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, so good night and thank you for this very timely and relevant presentation. So the question I was asking is that how many presentations should be done in a 2-hour time frame. I was recently part of a 4-member team where we had to do a presentation on a particular topic, and each person had a different topic to present on the broader topic. So we had subtopics to present on. Now, after we were completed and we did our postmortem, we found that although it was informative, it was a bit too much for that 2-hour time frame. Each presentation lasted about 30 minutes thereabout. So that is what I was asking. How many do you think we should have structured, within that time frame? Thank you.
Okay. There's no right and wrong, black and white. Again, is determined by the person in control, but the experts are saying 30 minutes screen time. So like the example I gave, I usually have a 3-hour class in person, but now that I'm doing it online, I would break it up and do like 30 minutes break in between there. So it depends. So if you're going straight through with the same persons, the same participants, the same person, it could be taxing. If, however, as I figured you were saying, there are groups where one group present maybe, and then that group goes and the other group comes. So that's why I'm saying it determines on the structure of the meeting or whatever would determine the duration of time that you would be there. But it is advisable, the medical personnel are saying that it is advisable no more than 30 minutes at a time, 45 maybe the max of screen time. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this. After you are so drained, it's almost like you ran up a hill, came down and ran up and came down again, and you were just sitting looking at the screen. So I don't have to preach that to you. It is very, very, very draining and it could be very, very overwhelming on your body and your mind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. So I'm going to Rosemary now, and she asks, can you comment please on persons being present in a meeting with the video off? I'm speaking more about interactive meetings. I find it disconcerting to listen to participants with videos off. I feel also that the presenter and even participants can benefit from positive energy of seeing participants and expressions.
I totally agree. But as you know, there's choice. Yes, I tend to get energy if I'm seeing you, and I grow with that energy. If I am not seeing you, it feels as if I'm talking to a screen, and that's what it is. And I'm sure you would have that's what you explained. But people have a choice. But I will say though, if you are the presenter, I think it is polite, it is respectful to show your face as the presenter or the leader, okay? But participants would have a choice. And as you know, many people are competing, they're multitasking, so there may be various reasons why they may not want to share their video. But the presenter should start the energy off. Yeah, and maintain it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. Well, we have no more questions unless someone asks another question. But so far, I've just been saying thank you very much for this informative and great presentation. Very informative session, presentation by Dr. Bellamy. So they're thanking you so much for the invitation, as well as to the UE alumni team. I just think this was a lot of warm reception. Oh, we have a question from Caroline Cooper. I'll give you the opportunity to unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Well, it's not a question, it's really a comment, and I'm sorry I'm not starting my video because, well, let me see. The space where I'm in is in chaos because I just had some work done here. Let's see Let's see how I look. Well, I'm not looking too bad, so I can turn on the video. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I tend to treat these video forums as podcasts. So I don't look at the screen at all. I just listen. And I'm encouraging people to think of these as radio broadcasts. You save your eyes, and your ears are really what matters. So just throwing out that suggestion. Okay? I don't know what you think of that.
Thank you.
Any thoughts, Dr. Bellamy?
Again, I said it is choice. We don't know the circumstances. The baby may be there, you know, so yeah, it's a matter of choice.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. So I've put the information in the chat if you wish to request this recording, and you may send an email to karina.dice@alumni.ua.edu. But just before we wrap up, I'm giving you one more opportunity to ask your questions. But just in case nothing is coming right now, I'm going to ask Dr. Bellamy, if it's okay with you, to perhaps post an email address or any relevant way in which persons on here could also connect with you and ask your questions if something just pops up later on.
I'm trying to share it. I'm going to share it in the chat.
Thank you. While you're doing so, I'll just read some of the comments. Simone says, excellent presentation. Thank you for this timely and informative presentation. Sincere thanks to Dr. Bellamy and the UE team. This was an informative and appreciated presentation. Dr. Bellamy, I am personally very grateful. As an event host and having to adapt to a very virtual space, this was also very informative and very enlightening. And I could definitely use some of the skills to enhance my hosting abilities and ensure that everyone can see me, have the positive energy, but also ensuring that it's effective and everybody connects. So I definitely learned a lot, and I think everyone here learned a lot as well. And I'm also just going to wrap up by saying just thank you so much. I extend these thanks on behalf of the UE alumni team, so that includes Miss Karina Dice, and just wanted to say we appreciate your time, your effort, and your presentation. I speak for all the Bajans, the Trinis, the Jamaicans, and everyone here huddled in our Zoom land, how grateful we are for you to just come here and speak with us, and we definitely appreciate it. So thank you so much again, Dr. Bellamy, and we hope to have you here another time, and we do wish you just a great evening as you go off and do whatever it is that you're going to do.
Thank you so very much. My mic is still on. I didn't even realize. Thank you so much. You are doing a wonderful job. I really love the energy. Thank you, participants, for sacrificing your evening. Those of you who are sharing their camera, thank you, because then I can speak to a face. Yes, thank you for the team, for the opportunity, and looking forward to sharing with you another time. I've placed my email in the chat, research doctor, and any other information you need, I guess you can connect with the team and they can share, feel free to share the info. Yes?
Thank you so much, Dr. Bellamy. And so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, good morning or good night. It was my pleasure to be your moderator for this evening's webinar. My name is Tomoya Campbell, and we're signing off. Thank you so much again, Dr. Bellamy. Thank you for being a great audience, and see you at another soft and life skills webinar series. Be safe, everyone, and good night.